Hi again, everyone. So, at this point, I am going to speak on the topic, the chapter 1 on biochemistry, which is the carbohydrates. So, let's begin. Let's begin on the chapter 1 of biochemistry, which is the carbohydrates. But before that, we're going to start on the overview of what is biochemistry. So, what is biochemistry? When we say biochemistry, it is the study of the chemistry of living things. This includes organic molecules and their chemical reactions. Most people consider biochemistry to be synonymous with molecular biology. And there are types of molecules that biochemistry study or biochemists study, which are the carbohydrates, the lipids, the proteins, and the nucleic acid. Many of these molecules are complex molecules called polymers, which are made up of monomer subunits. Biochemical molecules are based on carbon. Biochemistry is used to learn about the biological processes which take place in cells and organisms, and may be used to study the properties of biological molecules, for a variety of purposes. For example, a biochemist may study the characteristics of the keratin in hair so that shampoo may be developed that enhances curliness or softness. Biochemistry deals with the structure and function of cellular components, such as what I have said earlier: proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids, and other biomolecules. There are two types of biochemical substances, which is the inorganic substances and the bioorganic substances. The inorganic substances are water and inorganic salts, while the bioorganic, that's the carbohydrates, the lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. So let's move on to the occurrence and function of carbohydrates. But before that, I am going to state what is the meaning of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, together with lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids, are one of the four major classes of biologically essential organic molecules found in all living organisms, like what I have said earlier. And they are the bioorganic substances. Carbohydrates, all coming from the process of photosynthesis, represent the major part of organic substance on Earth, are the most abundant organic components in the major part of fruits, vegetables, legumes, and cereal grains, carry out many functions in all living organisms, and are the major energy source in a Mediterranean type diet. Finally, they provide flavor and texture in many processed foods. Move on now to the occurrence and function of carbohydrates. Almost 75% of dry plant material is produced by photosynthesis. Most of the matter in plants, except water, are carbohydrate material. Examples of carbohydrates are cellulose, which are structural component of the plants, starch, the energy reservoir in plants, and glycogen, or animal starch, found in animal tissues and human body in smaller quantities. Plant products are the major source of carbohydrates. In the average human diet contains 2 over 3 or 2/3 of carbohydrates. Recommended percents in daily diet: the 60% carbohydrates and sucrose less than 10%. Usefulness of carbohydrates is their ability to produce energy when they undergo oxidation during respiration. Storage carbohydrate in the form of glycogen provides a short-term energy reserve for bodily functions. Carbohydrates supply carbon atoms for the synthesis of other biochemical substances like proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids. Carbohydrates also form a part of the structural framework of DNA and RNA molecules. Carbohydrates linked to lipids, as discussed, are not are structural components of cell membranes. And I will dictate some of the functions of carbohydrates. First is they are used as material for energy storage and production, like starch and glycogen, respectively in plants and animals, are stored carbohydrates from which glucose can be mobilized for energy production. Glucose can supply energy, both fueling ATP synthesis or ATP, the cell's energy currency, has inside a phosphorylated sugar and in the form of reducing power as a NADPH. It should be noted that glucose used as energy source burns without yielding metabolic wastes, being turned in carbon dioxide and water, and of course releasing energy. Another is they exert a protein saving action. If present in adequate amount in daily nourishment, the body does not utilize proteins for energy purpose, an anti-economic and polluting fuel, because it will need to eliminate nitrogen. Another is their presence is necessary for the normal lipid metabolism. Another, glucose is indispensable for the maintenance of the integrity of nervous tissue, or some central nervous system areas are able to use only glucose for energy production, and red blood cells. Two sugars, ribose and deoxyribose, are part of bearing structure, respectively, of their RNA and DNA, and obviously find themselves in the nucleotide structure as well. Another is they take part in detoxifying processes, and they are also found linked to many proteins and lipids. Within cells, they act as signals that determine the metabolic fate or the intracellular localization of the molecules which are bound. Another is two homopolysaccharides, cellulose, or the most abundant polysaccharide in nature, and chitin. Probably next to cellulose, the second most abundant polysaccharide in nature, serve as structural elements, respectively, in plant cell walls and exoskeletons of nearly a million species of arthropods. Next is we're going to discuss on the classification of carbohydrates. There are three. The carbohydrates consist of the following molecules, which is the monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. When we say monosaccharides, mono means one. So they consist of one sugar containing 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7 carbon atoms and are usually colorless, water-soluble, crystalline solids. Some monosaccharides have a sweet taste. Examples of monosaccharides include glucose or dextrose, fructose or levulose, galactose, xylose, and ribose. While the disaccharides, which means two, a sugar or a carbohydrate composed of two monosaccharides. The oligosaccharide is a saccharide polymer containing a small number, typically 3 to 10 monosaccharides units, linked one to the next by chemical bonds called glycosidic bonds. The most abundant oligosaccharides are disaccharides, formed by two monosaccharides, and especially in the human diet, the most important are sucrose, or the common table sugar, the lactose, and maltose. Within cells, many oligosaccharides formed by three or more units do not find themselves as free molecules but linked to other ones, lipids or proteins, to form glycoconjugates. And last one is the polysaccharides. Poly means many. Polysaccharides are polymers consisting of 20 to 10 monosaccharidic units. They differ each other for the monosaccharides recurring in the structure, for the length and the degree of branching of chains, or for the type of links between units. Polysaccharides are defined homopolysaccharides if they contain only one type of monosaccharide as starch, glycogen, and chitin. Heteropolysaccharides instead contain two or more different kinds. For example, hyaluronic acid. This monosaccharide disaccharide are only the chemical classification of carbohydrates. So let's move on to the physiological classification of carbohydrates, which is which is the simple and the complex. The simple, mono and disaccharides, also known as sugars, and tri and tetrasaccharides or oligosaccharides, while the complex is the polysaccharides. A further classification lays the foundations on the possibility of being used directly for energy purpose. So, available as glucose, fructose, galactose between monosaccharides, sucrose, lactose, maltose, and maltodextrin between oligosaccharides and starch, and glycogen between polysaccharides, while the not available as xylose or monosaccharide, lactulose, C-lactose, and raffinose or respectively di and trisaccharide fiber. So that's all for the carbohydrates, the overview of biochemistry, the occurrence and functions of carbohydrates, and the classification. So again, I am Jonalyn Felizario from BSN 1B. Thank you for listening and for watching as well. Thank you.